Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I am Professor Hassan and you are watching my channel Professor Hassan Hamayu. Difference between standard deviation and coefficient of variation is a unique and a very important question for PPSC, FPSC, KPPSC and SPSC interview session. Today I will discuss the difference between these two. Before starting today's lecture, I request everyone, if you want to join my session, my numbers are given. Just send me the message, and these sessions, interview preparation session and written test preparation session, will be very fruitful for you. Let's start. What is standard deviation? Actually, standard deviation tells us the dispersion or scatterness of the values in the data. It is an absolute measure of dispersion. I will give you the example. You have marks of the students. Marks are 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. Its average is, for example, 70 marks, and standard deviation is 10 marks. That value of 10 marks, this tells us the average dispersion of every value from the central value. If the standard deviation is small, it means that there is less variation in the data. Values are close to the central value of the data. And if the standard deviation is high, it shows that there is much variation in the data. The values are scattered, dispersed around the mean value. And a very important thing, as I told you, standard deviation is an absolute measure of dispersion. If the data is given in rupees, then dispersion, standard deviation, will also be in rupees. If the data is given in kilogram for the weight of anything, then the standard deviation will also be in kilogram. If you have the data of apple's weight and that is in grams, then standard deviation will also be in the grams. It will tell you, it is the absolute dispersion. It will tell you, it will allow you to know what is the dispersion, average dispersion of the values around the central value. But whenever you have two data sets and they have same units, for example, you have the score of Australian player Glenn Maxwell and South African player Markram, and you want to compare them. S1 is 5 runs. Here you have S2 is equal to 3 runs. You can compare these two data sets which have the same unit, both are in scores. Then the standard deviation, which is low, it shows that there is less variation in the score of that player as compared with that one. But whenever you have the nose height in centimeter and the height of the body, you have 20 students in the class and we measure their nose height in centimeter as well as their body height in centimeter. Now dear students, very important question, unit is same, both are in centimeter, but they cannot be compared with the help of standard deviation, because the less variation in centimeter for nose has more significance as compared with the dispersion of the body height in centimeters. So that will be compared with the coefficient of variation. So what did you learn? Whenever we have one data set and the dispersion of the data and the original data has same unit, you will use standard deviation for measuring the scatterness of the values. Number two, whenever you have two data sets, both have same units, standard deviation can be applied. But whenever you have nose height or body height, now you cannot use standard deviation, as I told you. Another example, you have diameter of bolts in millimeters, and you have, for example, a tire, a wheel of the car, it is also in millimeter. Now the small difference in this much can have more significance from the difference of these millimeters of the wheels. So you cannot compare these two. Now you will have to take the help of coefficient of variation. Coefficient of variation is a relative measure of dispersion. It is used, actually it standardizes the variability. It is used to compare the two data sets having different units. For example, you have salaries of people, of a company workers, and you have the weight of the apple in grams. It is in rupees. The standard deviation is 2500 rupees. average dispersion in the values of the salaries of the employees is 2500 rupees, and in apples the standard deviation is, for example, 25 grams. We cannot compare them. I do not know which data set has much variation, because that is in grams and that is in rupees. So you will have to use a quantity which is relative measure dispersion, that is used to compare two data sets of different units. It is gram, it is rupees. We use S over X bar multiplied by 100%. The low value of CV tells that that data set has less variation as compared with the second one. For example, CV of 1 is 10%, CV of 2 is 15%. It means that data set has less variation as compared with the second data set. Must comment on today's lecture. Assalamu alaikum.